flag bearership race. One poll released by the research group Africa Policy Lens boldly claims that Dr. Bawumia holds a commanding 70.6% lead, and we'll be interrogating that data here on the Pulse. The other, by Sanity Africa, stirs controversy by placing Kennedy Agyapong in front with a whopping 54.1%. Well, the question now echoes louder than ever. Whose numbers should we trust? Well, let me begin by breaking down the data from Sanity Africa survey, and would also bring you reaction from the camp of Kennedy Agyapong. That survey is coming up on your screens as we look at some of the key findings they have put together. Well, on our touch screen here, we've just put together some numbers that could help us break it down. Now, when it comes to the delegate surveys report, based on them, they are saying that Kennedy Agyapong is leading with 51.4%, followed closely by Dr. Bawumia, 42.2%, I beg your pardon. Then there's Dr. Brian Agyapong, 3.1%. Educhum is sitting at the bottom with 3%. That's the data they're providing us this afternoon. Well, let's look at the regional breakdown of this survey that they put together by Sanity Africa. Just look at some of the key regions and their prediction as to how delegates would vote. Mind you, the National Delegate Conference is coming up within a matter of 12 days. And so we're looking forward to how this will pan out. When it comes to the party breakdown, when it comes to regions, let's look at the Ashanti region. They're predicting Kennedy Agyapong will win that seat with 53.5%. When it comes to the Ashanti region, they're predicting Bawumia would be losing by 29.7%. Brian Agyapong, they predict 5.1%, and then Educhum 9.5%, and the others who may be willing to join the race at a later time, they're predicting 2%. So this is in the stronghold of the party, the Ashanti region, and this is the survey that Sanity Africa put together. Let's move on to other regions and get to find out what exactly they found during the survey. In the Eastern region, for example, they're predicting 60.8% win for Kennedy Agyapong, Dr. Bawumia 22.9%, Brian Agyapong 13.7%, Educhum 2.6%, and others 0.0%. That's the prediction in the Eastern region. Well, this is contradicting the figures that the other survey have put together. We'll be going into that shortly. Let's move on now to another region as we look at some of the key findings that this survey has put together. When it comes to the Greater Accra region, they're predicting Kennedy Agyapong will win the primaries with 52.5%, and that Bawumia will follow closely with 38.9%, Brian Agyapong 5.2%, Educhum 2.8%, and others 0.6%. So these are the key areas. We've taken you to the Greater Accra region, with the Ashanti region, the Eastern region, but what's the finding in the Volta region? In the Volta region, they're predicting a 49.1% win for Kennedy Agyapong. When it comes to Bawumia, they're predicting a 46.3%. He's following Kennedy Agyapong closely. Brian Agyapong, they're predicting 1.5%, and then Dr. Educhum, they're predicting 3.1%, others 0.0. So that's the basic finding from a group called Sanity Africa. They've been doing some digging in to find out who exactly the delegates will be voting for coming elections as the party looks at reclaiming power. And we're looking at that this morning because that's not the only survey out for grabs. And we'll be getting reaction from the camp of both Kennedy Agyapong and Dr. Bawumia, because another survey has also popped up. And this other survey is actually what we're going to be looking at very soon, just to get a sense of what exactly their findings are. It's by a research group called Africa Policy Lens, and they are predicting a win for Dr. Bawumia. In fact, their number is at a staggering 70.1%. So they actually are of the opinion that after talking to delegates feel that the man for the job is Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. And this is what we're interrogating today. We want to understand their sample frame and what technique they use to gather this data, as we look at the conflicting data from both Sanity Africa and themselves as well. So let me bring in Dr. Hayford Mensah. He's senior lecturer at the University of Ghana and senior research fellow for Africa Policy Lens. He joins us live on The Pulse. And later I'll also be having a conversation with aide to Dr. Bawumia, who is Miracles Apwaji, as we look at the findings of this group. But let me start with you, Doc, and just get to understand. First of all, what sample size did you use to collate your data, and what technique did you adopt?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to your cherished viewers and listeners. And so we set out to conduct this poll, keeping in mind the voter population of 80,774,159 potential voters for the 2024 GETMA elections. And so in every survey, you need to make allowance for what we call the margin of error. And so we accounted for a 2% margin of error, but with a confidence interval of 99%. In other words, if we presume to make errors in our estimation or whatever, we are expecting that it should be plus or minus 2. That is the whole idea. So when you apply this to any basic sample size calculator, you would have a total sample of 4,160. And this 4,160, we decided to reach out to all 276 constituencies that we have in the country. And to do that, we identified the constituencies and the number of voters proportional to those constituencies and assigned numbers to them. And so you don't have equal numbers throughout, depending on the constituency and the number of voters that we expected. But when you aggregate everything, it comes to 4,160. And that is what we did. And so when we go into any polling station that we identified, because we work in over 832 polling stations, that's where we collected our data from across the country. And any polling station we go to, we have a criteria that we follow. Try to identify a young person, depending on whether it's an urban or a rural setting. If it's a rural setting, obviously we'll look out for the most economically active profession there. If it is farming, we identify a farmer. If it is trading, we identify a trader within that bracket and speak to them. So these are the modalities we followed in getting our numbers across for our poll.
No breakdown. How did you arrive at the figure you've put out? What were the findings? Let's start from the Ashanti region, for example.
Now, if you take overall, if you look at the overall population, this poll had a number of objectives. Number one was to find out what exactly accounted for the loss of the New Patriotic Party in the 2024 elections. Number two was to also find out who were the population that did not go to the polls, to the ballot to cast their vote. And because this was, we noticed that a number of people did not actually cast their ballot. And so we wanted to understand which demographic population were they and where could they be found. And number three, to also gauge the political future of the New Patriotic Party, as well as even for the National Democratic Congress. And when you put everything together, so don't forget, based on what we have described, we're speaking to both persons who identified, in fact, 55% of the people we spoke to identified themselves as being pro-NPP people who ordinarily would vote for the NPP. Then we have people who identify themselves as being within NDC, were 44%, and other political parties took the rest of the numbers. Now, when you put all of this together, and the question is posed to them, if you were NPP delegate, who would you vote for in the NPP or to become the leader for the NPP? That is the NPP flag bearer race. And here, I want to clarify that here is looking at overarching by population, irrespective of political affiliation. And you have a staggering 52% of them indicating that they would prefer to have someone like Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to lead in the MPP, especially given that after His Excellency John Mahama they need somebody who can actually continue within the space of leadership in the country. And based on what we had already found out to say that which political party do you belong to, etc., we were able to disaggregate the data to find out whether or not these responses we are getting is driven by the pro-NPP people or the pro-NDC people. And the data suggests, if you disaggregate them, that 70.6% of persons who identify as NPP, and here it includes persons who said they had actually voted in 2016 for the NPP, people who said they had voted for the NPP in 2020, and some of them actually did not vote for the NPP in 2024 because of other reasons. So these are the people who say, 70.6% say the best person, in their opinion, to actually lead the NPP in the lead up to 2028 general election should be His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Then if you look at those who believe it should be Honorable Kennedy Agyapong, it's about 21.4%.
Okay.
Now, if you take persons who identify as NDC and you throw disaggregate the data with the same group of people, you find that 48.4% of them actually say that they prefer Honorable Kennedy Agyapong to be the leader of the NPP going to the general elections. And when you put all the different regions together, interesting patterns evolve. Now, you realize that in the northern regions, i.e. Upper East, Upper West, Northern, Savannah, Northeast regions, it is really a no game for any other political party. It is really tilted, skewed towards His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Now, when you come to the South, there is some form of, you find especially in the Volta region, there was a real lead for His Honorable Kennedy Agyapong. If you go to a region like the Central region and then Western North region, Kennedy Agyapong is in the lead. In Hafu region, there was a split of the vote between Honorable Kennedy Agyapong and His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Now, this sends a signal. We did not just end this here. We did follow up with qualitative interview because we needed to get the whys, the reasons behind the choices of people. Now, let me say this. One important reason that respondents ascribe to indicating that they think Bawumia will be the right person to lead the NPP is the fact that, in their opinion, if you take a look at the performance of NPP in 2024, they believe the performance could have been worse, but for His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. And that is number one. Number two, if you look at the contribution as to who, in their opinion, really played an essential role in even keeping the party together before, during, and after the elections, his name pops up with a staggering 73%. And this is followed closely by the role of Samira Bawumia. And you look at the other groups within the hierarchy, from national leadership, Council of Elders, and many other people, you realize that their contribution, and what surprised us, is actually the role of MMDCs. Their role in the entire campaign and everything was really identified to be negligible. And so that, for me, is revealing, and I believe the political flag bearer contenders would have to take a cue from that and see who they're actually aligning with to make sure that they actually get this. Now, other reasons, you take the northern factor. Persons believe that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama was able to get a number of votes in the north because he is the son, they call it, of the northern region. And so there was a bit of a split. And before the introduction of His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, it had been what ordinarily we all would say a stronghold of the NDC. But since 2008, when he was introduced to the game, consistently, there has been a steady improvement in the performances of the NPP.
Okay.
And
Doc, you would have to stay with me because I want to explore this further. But something is happening right now. We have